So you've just bought your first kayak and you're looking for some tips, tricks, or maybe even how to catch your first fish from your new kayak. Well, today I'm going to be doing the beginner's guide to kayak fishing, and hopefully you guys will learn some helpful tips and tricks along the way. So the first thing I did before I even came out here to go kayak fishing was check the weather. You want to make sure the wind is below 5 knots when you're getting into kayak fishing, because that ensures that you're not going to get caught out. You're not going to get caught out by random big wind, and it usually means that you can stay pretty safe when you're getting used to your kayak. So we're just putting on all our accessories at the moment, and when it's completely set up, I'll go over my favorites and what I recommend for beginners. We now have the kayak completely set up with all our accessories, and the first thing is safety. Before you even go out, you want to make sure you're prepared for the worst. Obviously expect the best, expect to have a good day's fishing, but also be conscious that bad things can happen. So obviously wear a life jacket. I have a little EPIRB in one pocket, and I also have a knife in the other pocket in case I have to cut anything. And then throughout the kayak, I also have a sponge to get out water, and I have a manual bilge pump. So you want to make sure safety is always on your mind in the forefront, because you always want to be prepared. So we've covered checking the conditions and safety. Now we can get into the accessories. So I have a lot of the basics on this kayak. I've got rod holders, I've got a net, and also a light to keep me visible as well. Now, some of the things which I would recommend to beginners to make life a little bit easier is an esky. Fill the esky with ice so you can store your catch really nice and fresh, and it also makes for better eating fish once you catch them. Now, another thing which I would highly recommend is having an anchor. Drifting definitely works, but when you find the fish, you want to try and anchor right on top of them and capitalize on the one area where they're holding. So we have an anchor as well, and we obviously have a few other little bits and pieces. We have a measure mat, we have sinkers in a bag here, we have some tackle trays with hooks, squid jigs and lures, and that's pretty much it. So I can really deck this kayak out and go all out, but I'm going to keep it very simple today. We've just got the bare essentials and some of the basics which I think will help you guys. Well, now we have our kayak completely set up, all decked out, we've checked the weather. So now we can make our way down to the water and take a look at the spot where we're going to be fishing today. Hopefully I can teach you guys a little bit of tips and tricks and get you on your first fish. We are down here waterside now, and I quickly just want to go over why I've chosen this area in specific for beginners. We have a lot of weed beds, a lot of sand patches around here, which in turn holds a lot of life. There's a ridiculous amount of species in this area, from leather jackets to wrasse to whiting to squid to garfish. Everything, every bread and butter species is in these areas. And if you want to know this exact spot and how to fish it in a little bit more detail, you can check out my Patreon and I go over exactly that. But let's get out here and we'll try to find a few areas where I think we'll be able to find some fish. Let's make our way out here with the kayak. Now, when getting onto a kayak, you want to make sure you're always in the center of gravity. That's where you want to step on initially. If you go too far to the right or left, you have a chance of tipping it. Not very likely, but you always want to try to stay right in the center. And then just push out like that, and we're kayak fishing. You either have your pedals or you're pedaling out, or you have your paddle, but either way, we're making our way out here now. And I did not bring my sounder for a very good reason as well. This is a basic guide to kayak fishing. So all I've got is Google Earth and a pair of sunnies, which I'm going to use to try and find some areas where I think we're going to anchor and look for some fish. And we're already coming over some really good grounds. So this whole area, everywhere around me, is just covered in massive weed beds and sand patches. So what I'm going to do is make my way out to slightly deeper water into 2, 3, 4, or even 5 meters. And we're going to look for these sand patches which are in amongst the weed beds. That's where we're going to find King George whiting, squid, leather jackets, wrasse, any species. Love those type of areas. So we're just going to pedal directly out, not too far off land, probably only a couple hundred meters, and then we'll try around there. We're in a little bit deeper water now. If I had to guess, I'd say we're in about 4.5, 5 meters, and I'm just looking for some sand patches. So there's some really thick weed beds everywhere. I'm just using the maps and my eyes to try and locate a really nice patch of sand to anchor on. There's one there. Perfect. Some really nice sandy, weedy, patchy bottom, and we're slowly, just gently going to drop that anchor down. So my anchor setup is just a bungee cord holder with some rope on it, and then the anchor's attached to that. So very, very simple. Also have a little flotation device here in case the rope falls in, it'll just float. So we've got 3 rods with us today, and as I mentioned earlier, there is squid in this area. So what I'm going to do with the first one is actually rig up a baited grass whiting on a float. So what we're going to do is just have that floating out around the kayak while we're trying to catch other fish. And quite often, this will do really, really well on the squid. So that's it right there. Very, very basic setup with a silver whiting down the bottom and an adjustable float just above that. Going to have that whiting about 1 meter off the bottom. Now, if we pick up a squid on any of the other 2 setups, it's going to be a bonus. But this one right here is how I really think we're going to catch our fish. So we have a little paternoster rig. We have a very small sinker down the bottom. Not a lot of current in this area, so no need for big sinkers. And it just goes down to a small long shank hook with a tiny piece of squid. So all we're going to do is just cast that onto the sand patches which we found earlier and just try and find some fish. So in these areas, as we said, we can pick up leather jackets, whiting, salmon, anything. So hopefully we'll be able to get our first fish. Just going to cast that out, hit the bottom there, and I'm slowly just going to walk that along the bottom back towards the kayak. We are not fussy today. We will take, oh, straight away had a fish. Couple good bites early on. That just hit the bottom. Got one. Got a little fish. See what he is. Bang. A little King George whiting. That took all of about 2.5 seconds. He's a little bit undersized though. Very, very good sign. It means there's fish in the area, and that's our target species. King George whiting is what I was really hoping to catch. And we're just going to put him over there. He's a little bit too small. Wow. How good did that work? That went a lot better to plan. So we found this little sand patch and there's whiting holding here. I also saw some leather jackets when I first rocked up here down near the bottom as well. So we have found some fish already. Very, very basic spot. Just came out here, used my phone and found this area. So we've just cut up some tiny little pieces of fresh squid. That's the bait we're using. You can also use pilchards. Any bait really works around these areas, but I've just chosen some fresh squid. So I'm just going to rig up those little tentacles like that. Leave a little bit dangling down below. That acts as a bit of an extra attractant. So we'll get that out. Exact same spot. Just going to slowly wind that along the bottom. Whiting love movement. They love a slowly moving bait. It just looks like a little worm, a little bass yabby, and they absolutely love it. When you're getting a lot of little bites but not hooking up to them, typically it's these fellas. They're in abundance around here and they're actually really good eating. So if you do catch them and they're a good size, they can be taken home for a delicious little feed. Let's do something a little bit different. So we've caught a few fish in this spot. I'm just going to wind up all these rods, pull up the anchor and actually do a few drifts for squid. The water's really, really clear. We have a tide change at the moment, so it is the perfect time to try and catch a couple of squid. So we'll do that for about half an hour, and then when that tide starts moving again, we'll target some more whiting and some more leather jackets. Let's get that grass whiting down to the bottom. We've just made a little bit of a move. We've gone in slightly shallower, and we're going to fish these really shallow drop-offs, the sand patches, the weed beds, and try and find some squid. So we're going to do a few drifts, and all we're going to do, cast a few of these jigs over these shallow drop-offs. Just try to get one squid for you guys, try and demonstrate what's in this area and what can be found in these shallow water environments, especially when there's weed and sand patches. There we go, straight away. Wow, we just got a squid on the second cast. That is actually unreal for this spot, and tell you what, it's not a bad one either. Wow, that's a really nice little squid, and there's a massive one under him. A massive one under him. Oh, he's trying to get him, he's trying to bite him. One under him's a monster. Okay, what we're gonna do, get that jig straight back down. There he is. He just grabbed that straight away. Big squid. Wow. Chaos. In this ultra shallow water, and we just found 2 giants in literally seconds. We've barely been here for 5 minutes chasing squid. Bang. Giants instantly. Oh, you're kidding me. That thing's pulling some serious line. Well, basic kayak fishing gone nuts. Completely new area for me, and we've already found some amazing squid. That is a big one. We're just going to try scoop them both up in the net. Bang! That is a cracking calamari. Hooked really well too on that tiny little jig. Sure. Oh, another one. Oh my goodness. What? We just got another one. This one's not very big, but man, what just happened? I've never ever had squid fishing like this in this area. Man, oh, this just goes to show you guys the potential while fishing these shallow water weed beds. This is that last one we just got, so he's only a smaller squid, but they get bigger from there. Oh, look at the next one. Really nice medium-sized squid, but the last one is an absolute monster. Take a look at that. Oh, it's cold as. That is just basic bread and butter kayak fishing to an absolute T. We ticked off whiting, leather jackets, and now 3 beautiful calamari in all of about 5 minutes. Well, that wind's starting to pick up, so I'm gonna head straight back in. Don't want to take any risks. Could get up a bit more and it could get a bit nasty. So as soon as that wind picks up, if you're new to kayak fishing, make sure you go straight back in. This wind is really whipped up, but hopefully you guys learned something on this guide to basics of kayak fishing. And I really hope that you guys can go out there now and do some of this basic fishing yourself. We ended up with 6 squid, 4 whiting, and a bunch of other nice species in only 2.5 hours of fishing. So really, really nice session. And thanks for watching this one, guys. I'll see you in the next video.